So welcome back to the London Food Network podcast, the show where we dive into real stories behind the food and drink brands shaping our industry today. I'm your host, Sebastian, and today we're heading stateside to meet a brand that's taken a classic snack and reimagined it with heart, craftsmanship, and a serious respect for tradition. Joining me is Chris, the founder of Austin Pretzel Company, or Austin Pretzel Co., a company born from a passion for authentic Bavarian pretzels made the right way with simple ingredients, old world technique, and a mission to bring genuine quality back to the snack aisle. So let's dive in. Chris, I'm looking forward to this one. I always find it fascinating how someone can turn something that's been around for I don't even know how long, but I'm sure the millennia, and turn it into something that's pretty much kind of and fashionable and tasty and all over the US, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I like to attribute this to a wasted youth. Now, when I say that, growing up in the food industry, you're sort of introduced to opportunity and innovation and excitement and the challenge of taking things and recreating things and reintroducing things and melding the old with the new and inspiring yourself to pursue different sort of weird and wonderful, as I like to say. But yeah, up until this point, it's been quite the adventure. Much like yourself, having a business is challenging and ever evolving and ever changing, but we're really excited of where we are today and what the future looks like for us.
Nice. So tell me more about the beginning. When did you begin with the pretzel company and why? What is it that kind of drove this idea to become what it is now?
Yeah. And you know what? I use this analogy a lot, but truly this was a happy accident. It wasn't by design. Both myself and my business partner, David, were working in our respective fields. Myself, I've been in the food industry for a very long time. He's sort of in the, I wouldn't say brand propulsion space, but the VC space. He does a lot of interesting projects, connects a lot of high net worth people with opportunities. So it was a great marriage of minds. But again, I was working for another brand, doing some consulting. And because I was a chef by trade, I have a horrible sweet tooth. Now, I don't know if a lot of chefs have that, but
Right.
working on a project from Canada in the US, and we were acquiring a vegan snack line from a group, and they had a couple different brands and entities under their roof, and one of them was butter-toffee products. So myself being a horrible sort of snacker / sweet tooth, I was always kind of interested in the butter-toffee candies that they had. And the one day they were running production, and I said, wow, I'd love to sort of watch this. And then, what else are you doing with this? And they said, oh, we've tried nuts, we've tried this, we've tried pretzels. And so I had a taste of a pretzel product they had been producing for a gift basket componentry business. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is something pretty amazing. I've never seen this before. And much like you alluded to earlier, the pretzel space hasn't really received or seen any type of innovation in the last however million years. So
Yeah, right.
I was like, okay, this is something cool. Fast forward a couple of weeks, David's down in Los Angeles. I'm back down there again. We were on our way to the golf course and I said, hey, let's make a pit stop here. I want to show you something. Brought him into this facility and kind of showed him the operation, which is, very, I would say, tabletop in respect to what, true food production is on the grand scheme. But yeah, he had sort of the same response as I did. Like, whoa, we've never seen this before. This is really cool. We can really take this to a mass audience and probably have some success. So we launched a brand and that didn't take very long, being as, we're quite connected with resources, having a lot of experience in the business, and had a fun idea and sort of a confectionery feel to the vibe. And yeah, so, put it in front of some of the buyers that I had been previously working with or had great longstanding relationships with. And the consistency of the response was like, whoa, this is so cool. Why have we never seen this before? Nobody's done this before. Of course, we want to bring this into our banner or store or set, whatever that was. So we said, okay, this is something really, we should get behind. So we went out and raised a little more capital and really put some horsepower behind the brand, and then ended up acquiring our manufacturing partner, their brands and entities, and we moved the whole operation to Texas. So to be a little more brand consistent with our idea, our vibe, our theme. And then 2.5 years later, we're on a national level, Canada, US, a bunch of different verticals of business. So yeah, it's been, and I hate to use the analogy that it's easy to be the pretty girl because everybody wants to dance with you at the dance, but That's sort of what it's felt like. We have something cool and unique. We're a bit of an innovator in the space. We're a pioneer in the category as far as the set goes. So
Right.
it's been fun, and it continues to evolve. So not only are we in the pretzel space, we've extended our offering, our portfolio to include some savory flavor profiles versus just small batch
Okay.
English toffee, and we've extended ourselves into the pop crisp arena, so popped potato and popcorn chips. So as far as a robust portfolio goes, we're not quite there yet, but we're always looking at ways to innovate and sort of create opportunity for the brand.
Yeah, I was looking online actually talking about pretzels, right? Do you know when they originated? They originated apparently around 610 AD in Italy
There you go. We
by
credit the
European monks.
Germans for it.
Yeah, I know, right? And by European monks as a reward for children who learned their prayers.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Well,
Man, you
that's
know, I would have never said Italy. I don't think the Italians have ever claimed
no.
pretzels as one of their national things. I'm surprised they haven't.
Yeah, well, there you go. Now you're putting it into the universe, so don't be
Yeah,
surprised if you see
exactly.
it on
Watch
TikTok.
this space. Nice.
Exactly.
So it's only
Exactly.
2.5 years ago you actually launched the product. Wow,
Yeah,
and you're everywhere then. So you're doing food service. You said you got distributors, you got your own e-commerce, and you're delivering direct to retailers as well, or are you just going for distribution?
yeah, there's all kinds of facets. What really sort of inspired us to go after opportunity was what's going to be sexy and appealing to investors, and
Uh-huh.
obviously brand recognition and consumer loyalty and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
the best opportunity for optics for us was getting in front of retail grocers, because things like Albertsons or banners that resonate with investors down here are quite, I wouldn't say easy to get in front of, but they're a little more open to having conversations when something's innovative. So yeah, we're selling into retail grocery through district. We do some direct to consumer, direct to distributor warehouses with our own trucks. We sell e-commerce, we sell C-store channel. We're about to go into club, so the Costco's of the world here. And we did a lot of great partnerships to kind of capture consumer awareness, consumer interest. Costco has some unique programs where you can actually get into their buildings and do a roadshow, which is not necessarily a commitment on their part. It's more of a consignment of engagement. So it gives you an opportunity to be in their building to sell product through the Costco name, but without sort of the risk of them buying, inventorying, and bringing it into their buildings. So a lot of pieces to manage in that respect, but it really gave us an opportunity to engage with customers, find out what we were doing right, what we were doing wrong. And that, I think, just kind of dominoed into opening more doors and gave us a little bit of street credibility when we went out and tried to interest different verticals of business, saying, hey, we've been in Costco, we've done some road shows. And that seems like the magic word. When you say Costco, people are like, okay, there's trust there built around that name. So that's been, you're muted. There we go. More edits.
What is it? What was your North Star then, or did you have a North Star then? What is it that you were trying to
Accomplish.
accomplish exactly?
I mean, ideally with the Costco Roadshow setup, it was just an opportunity to show your investment with the purchasing teams, and that we weren't going to be a one and done, that there was going to be sell through at store level, and we had, the interest and the right product to fit to sell to their sort of Costco membership. It's a validation process, I guess, at the best way to sort of describe it. And for us, again, much like a lot of the reception we had at the buying level or the purchasing level, everybody was pretty shocked to see a product like this. I mean, when you're first visually sort of eating, you see a small crunchy pretzel, which is, obviously we talked about, it's a sourdough base. So in the respect of the true Bavarian style pretzel, and it's tumbled in butter toffee. So we do small batch English toffee, and it's almost like a hard candy over the pretzel, but it's really nice and balanced, not overly sweet, not something that you eat 2 or 3 of and you get sick of. It's
Yeah,
very easy to get a whole bag down and realize the bag's empty and then go for a second. So the
like a
consumers,
dangerous snack.
it is very, and when the consumers are sampling it and they really have an opportunity to test it, that's kind of where, again, the validation process for us was like, okay, we're doing the right things here. We have the right idea. We have the right sort of format. And really, there was no like, you know, we want to achieve this. There was no sort of goal in mind as far as who we wanted commitments from. We wanted to put this out everywhere and just kind of see what came back. And much like, the last 2.5 years have been, it's been really positive. And, we're excited to continue pushing and growing into different channels of business. Right now, what's cool about some of the opportunities we have in the pipeline are airline business.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that was never a focus, but we have, 5 or 6 airlines looking at our business right now, and contract caterers, which is a big thing in Canada and the US. There's a lot of contract food facilities, I would say, in sport facilities and schools, instead of
Yeah.
hiring internally. So they're looking at this as an alternative snack. And again, we're indulgent. We're not out here trying to be kale salad. We're not proposing to be the next hot plant-based item, but there is still room in the snacking category for us. And I think, with the innovation, the R&D side, we're going to continue to put out, culinary inspired flavor profiles, which is exciting for the consumer and for the purchasing side. So yeah, really cool.
So like you launched it 2.5 years ago. I'm still trying to get my head around this because it's such a quick turnaround really to have such great success. And you kind of almost created this business concept overnight, it seems. So many people will spend years planning out this business idea they have. They'll create very in-depth business plans, projections, spend an enormous amount of time on the kind of admin, if you like, before you actually launch the product at all. What was that journey like for you guys? It sounds like you kind of didn't need to do any of that because
We
you
skipped the
believed in the
line.
product and you just kind of cracked on.
Yeah, we skipped the line a bit. And again, I previous to this, I'd been in executive leadership for a very long time and worked specifically in the protein industry, had some value add, I wouldn't say CPG products, but value add protein products that created brands and taken and pioneered that to market. So definitely had the experience and had, I wouldn't say the roadmap, but had a good understanding of what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. And I think a lot of brands, again, get tied up in the minutia and the noise. They're trying to find the perfect approach, the perfect packaging, the perfect plan, the perfect strategy, the perfect team, the perfect social marketing campaign. And I think it's just about going out and getting the product in people's mouths or faces, and that sort of propels things forward. It helps to have some contacts, some relationships. A lot of people, I find, it's much like, launching a restaurant too. Just because Dave or Martha makes a great lasagna doesn't mean you should open a 500-seat Italian restaurant, right? I mean, I would do a little bit of groundwork, but don't get caught up in what color you're going to paint the parking lot versus just getting people in the door. So yeah, I mean, we're fortunate having that horsepower, having that experience really helps. But again, we wanted to be small and sort of nimble. And we did the original launch with 3 profiles. We did some sort of internal market testing with about 6 or 7 SKUs, but we figured, okay, we're going to try this with 3 SKUs. We're going to take the best of what we think is the best to market and just see what resonates, rather than spending piles of money on packaging and materials and marketing strategies. We really scaled small up to large. And even right now, we have some great ideas, but it doesn't make sense strategically to sort of dilute what we have momentum wise. So I can offer advice to anyone. I would say really just own it small and own your backyard, and then start to build from there.
Now, do you know what? The reason I said that actually, Chris, is because it's exactly right. I think too many people, it's like they just suffer this analysis paralysis thing where they just kind of overthink it. They spend all the time and all the energy on things that ultimately, great if the idea works, but just get out there and test it.
Yeah.
Launch it as soon as possible. Of course, some knowledge, you got to have some funding, you got to understand the numbers a little, to as a minimum. But as far as the product itself, if nobody likes it, you can have the best packaging, branding, the best business plan, you can have all the funding in the world. It's not going to, you can't convince people to like something. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And having meetings, about strategy, about meetings, just really, that doesn't do anything for anyone. Nowadays, it's interesting that there are a lot of different CPG platforms that really help provide or advocate for new brands. And we didn't necessarily invest heavily in that, but there's a group that started in the US called CPG Startup, and they have a blog that you can interact on when people just have generic questions. They're not trying to facilitate consultancy or fractional, but they do offer inroads to those things to support startups when they don't know who to talk to about logistics, when they don't know who to talk to about how to create an internal inventory management system or how to create a purchase order template or all of those bits and pieces. And I mean, your your consultancy is super valuable nowadays because, people can reach out to you and ask those questions and engage and have some support where I think brands 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was a shot in the dark for the most part, or you had to spend the money to hire these resources and bring salaried employees in to gain that knowledge. So I think overall we've evolved and there is a lot of support out there. But again, the failure to success rate is there's a huge dispersion there. And much like you just said, I think just get out there and get some feedback and don't try and be everything to everyone and don't try and win it all. It's okay to say no sometimes, and it's okay to fail because then you can understand what you can do to fix it and be better the next time around. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also just better to fail quickly rather than drag it out.
Exactly. More cost effective to do that. Yes, definitely.
Well, and also we're humans, right? We're emotionally led, and I think if you put too much time in something, you have this emotional connection to it, and therefore you kind of blindside yourself from the reality of whether that product's going to survive or not. And I think a lot of people I talk to, they go, these businesses they're running and it doesn't feel like it's ever going to work because it's but they put everything, their heart, soul, everything into it. Investors that are in the family and they're kind of trying to make this thing work, and you think, it's been a long time already and you've plowed everything, you're not even taking a salary and you're still trying to make it work. And I get it, there's some of them that will eventually make it, but I think it's better to fail fast than things. I think in one of the podcasts with Steve Butler, this English guy that does that podcast, really successful guy, and he advocates that a lot is, to fail fast. And I started understanding that better and applying that rule more and more now, because I think, like we just keep saying, it's easy to get bogged down in all kinds of detail, but ultimately it's just get it done. Put some steps forward and just get it done. You can lose too much time trying to think about it, and until you try it, you just don't know how it's going to go anyways. Yeah, and then this is why this podcast for me is really hopefully inspiring, because I just want people out there, because you know what it's like when you're done at a bar or pub. Everyone has a great idea, but very few actually executes the idea. I want to encourage people, hopefully as much as possible, to actually just give it a go, because it's not that complicated to do. And if you have got a good idea and you start well, then you'll quickly know if it's something that can develop or not, but at least you've tried.
Agreed. Yeah. And I think one thing I should mention is, early on in my career in food sales, departing from, the restaurant food service side of things, I always thought trade shows were amazing and a great sort of audience for feedback and understanding of where your product mix sits. If there's actually a gap with what you're trying to do, are you solving a problem? Are you facilitating innovation at some capacity? And it really gives you a chance to engage with consumers, much like the roadshows that we did with Costco. But again, I see a lot of brands that come to trade shows, and I don't advocate for the shows so much anymore. There's a few you want to partner with where you get value out of, but a lot of the times you see these brands with these big, huge booths and these big spends and here today, gone tomorrow. So I would say be very cautious about, where you're putting your money and where you're putting your resources. And I think knocking on doors, selling vacuums doesn't sound glamorous, but a lot of the time that's what really generates an ROI versus being, having an audience in media or at one of those kind of, platforms
like a huge social media following but zero sales,
it doesn't convert, right? At the end of the day,
that's the
if
thing.
nobody's experiencing it and you can't buy the product anywhere, TikTok and every other dance isn't going to save your life or put money back in your jeans. So yeah, I mean, find something small, find something that works, own your backyard and then build on it from there. But again, if you're trying to generate a revenue for the company, think about what you're doing first. Are you competing against ketchup or big box brands, Coca-Cola, Pepsi? Is it realistic to think that your cola is really going to compete when the market share is owned by these big, huge companies with massive budgets? So, I mean, do a little bit of homework, but again, don't get caught up in the minutia. Just get your product out there and get it in front of people.
All right. And what's the future for you guys then? Like, what is it that you're hoping to achieve in the next 12, 18 months?
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping by year 3 to 5, it's world domination. I mean, ideally, I would expect most brands to say that. It would be nice to be known as a global brand. It's not easy to sell outside of your country or your marketplace, but there are opportunities and there are partnerships and there are resources out there. I think, it would be exciting to see our products in Europe or Australasia. I have friends in different sort of industries that have said, hey, if you guys are ever excited about bringing this here or there, we would help, support inroads or, opportunities to connect with different brokers, banners, things like that. But I don't think we're ever going to get bored of our own backyard right now, because we're selling into a very small percentage of what the opportunity looks like.
Yeah.
So we can continue to focus and build on that. But yeah, I would say short answer is global domination, but long answer is we'll see where this evolves to. I mean, we like to continue to offer new products, maybe depart into some better for you offerings, because that seems to be what the trend is right now. And just keep our fingers crossed that we can ride this bit of success long term.
And like, what are your challenges at the moment in terms of reaching these goals? Like, what are your day to day? We talked about obviously operational,
Yeah.
hiccups, which common in the food industry in particular. But what are your kind of challenges at the moment, and what do you do about them?
Yeah. So I mean, even from day one to now, we've evolved from a person or a resource perspective to a space and facility perspective, all the way through having to include or automate some of our process, because just the sheer volume that's coming in now as far as purchase orders go, we can't operate as a tabletop sort of basement company anymore. We need to have equipment, and there's SOPs that need to go into place to manage how we do things and protect ourselves from product recalls or
Yeah,
quality concerns or incorrect pick and packs. So the evolution of the company and just adding resources and adding levels to the scale is really the challenge. And again, I have some great relationships, so we brought in some consultancy on that respect. As you continue to grow, it takes capital, right? You want to buy equipment. Equipment is not cheap. You want to
yeah,
maintain equipment. Maintaining equipment's not cheap. You got to have the right people, and just it continues to add up. So I would say just managing growth is tough, and making the right decisions on placing resources and spending capital is it's going to be a challenge for any business, but that's probably the hardest part about where we're at now is
yeah.
who do we say yes to, and what do we need versus what do we want to go forward.
Yeah, I think what your problems you're describing are just, well, in this industry, it's just a very common problem, isn't it? You kind of have these step ups all the time as you scale, and at some point you get to that crossroad of machinery, better systems, more expensive technology, and of course the costs increase significantly.
Yeah.
And you've got to kind of start making decisions because everything seems to be a trade off.
Yep.
Because
Agree.
yes, the capital is big to buy these things, but then I guess you just got to work out what's going to be the cost saving and what's going to be the kind of growth capacity from that investment. So if you're able to do the right numbers on that, and I guess it's a no-brainer to automate more and get the right machinery, and if you've got access to capital for it, then it's a no-brainer. And once you then resolve these problems, then great. Then you have this moment of growth, and at some point you'll get to another similar issue, and that's just the way it goes. It
Yeah, it
never ends.
doesn't stop there. I wish it did, but the nice
Yeah,
part about equipment is typically it doesn't call in sick.
yes,
Usually it works just as hard every single day as long as the power's on
100%.
and it's plugged in. So, but I mean, you still need operators, you still need people, and
Of
it's about
course.
creating good culture and not having to cycle through people and training and tying
Yeah,
yourself up
culture.
in
Culture is
those
hugely important,
very,
and it's difficult in a food production environment. It's not an easy one to develop because let's face it, they're not the best paying jobs for the hands on deck. It's not the most glamorous jobs. It's not the kind of job people wake up and think one day, oh, I'd love to be a machine operator or
right? A line
exactly.
supervisor. Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? So you got to create culture becomes increasingly important in these kind of environments, and getting that right has for my business been really helpful because when you do get the right team, it's like night and day to when you have a bad team. I couldn't have had a more different experience like today, for example, the team we've got than let's say even 5 years ago. That was a completely different story.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can I can attest to that as well. I mean, being in a few different sort of roles and capacities throughout my career thus far, it really comes down to people a lot of the time, and the investment team, who's supporting your business,
yeah,
who's putting money in, and who's communicating, the story, and how are we going to market. And I mean, we're super lucky, much like I said earlier, my business partner has worked in the VC space for a while. He's quite connected, and we have a lot of great investors. And it's, making those right decisions and having people that have had, generational experience in business and success that can contribute. And I know not everybody has access to that, but that's a big part of our success story too. So I mean, it's
That's an area that's actually often overlooked or at least undervalued.
truly,
That's an area that I always struggled in is the money side of things. So I've managed to retain 100% of the ownership of my seafood business. But I have oftentimes tried to find investment, and maybe either I wasn't very good at it, or maybe people just didn't want to invest in seafood. I don't know, but I always struggled. But at the same time, the paradox to that is actually that I've managed to retain like 100% ownership. That's probably a nice thing as well. You don't
totally.
really know what it's like the other side, where you've kind of given away equity. Yes, you've got the money, but then all of a sudden you're answerable to people, and it's almost the line between that and being an employee is almost like the same.
Well, you are at that point. As soon as you bring in outside investment, essentially you're working for the better of the investors. So whether you're personally invested, whether it's cash or sweat equity or something, and you have a stake, you're on the hook, or you need to answer to everybody, or the board, or the shareholders, or whoever that is. And now it's not a unilateral decision. Now it's like, okay, we want to do this, but we need to ask everybody to make sure everybody's on board. Otherwise, there's a risk of, something happening behind the scenes that could be detrimental. So it changes the dynamic of how you go to market and how you think. But I mean, the heartbeat and the soul of what we've done hasn't really changed. The philosophy about having a fun brand and being innovative, and those ideals still reign true. But yeah, it definitely changes. I wouldn't say makes you less nimble, but you need to send a couple more emails every day when a
More
decision
accountable,
needs
I
to be
guess. You're
made.
more accountable.
Yeah,
There's
correct.
more layers for a
It's more
decision to be
layers.
made. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which I guess
exactly.
is a good thing and also a bad thing. For someone like me, it would have probably been a good thing when I made some very bad decisions in the past. It would have been nice to have had some form of
Yeah,
layers to make.
security.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's kind of like a double-edged sword, I guess.
Yeah,
It's got as many pros as it's got cons.
totally. Yeah, for sure. It's all about the lens you look at it through, right? I mean, there's huge growth potential, huge upside with the right backing, the right sort of circle around you. But at the same respect, it's, divert a little away from what your sort of overall philosophy was on how am I going to build this and what am I going to do. So good and bad things from our perspective. It's been super positive, and really happy with our group, and they're behind us 100%. So it's been amazing.
And when you look back now, Chris, in the last 2.5 years, what's been your biggest kind of achievement, you think, with this? When you look back.
I would say just a validation to the whole idea, like taking the risk to do this for both myself and David was a bit of a departure. I mean, not that it's put us in a place where we would never have come back from, but when there's stability and consistency in your life and you have a regular work schedule versus, now launching a brand, there is no days off. There are no vacations. You can't just turn it off for a weekend because you don't feel good. If your phone rings, you got to be accountable and you got to answer, and you're problem solving constantly, whether it's talking to shareholders about sales numbers or opportunities versus talking to my office staff about how we're going to change the printer cartridge. I mean, all of that stuff is relevant on the same level all the time. So, the achievements are a feather in the cap, and the validation is amazing. And, I really, again, I really hope we can ride this wave of continued success.
And when you look back now, you must have had a moment where you questioned your life choices and you thought, what the hell am I doing here? And what moment was that? I'm sure you've had a few. Take us through one of these moments and, how you came through it. Yeah, right. Yeah, I know the pain. I've outgrown my premises 2 or 3 times now, and I think I've done about 4 or 5 different store setups, bought and sold stores in the past, set up and sold stores in the past, and I've kind of promised myself that that's it. I'm done. It is a very. I mean, it's enjoyable because when you look back and you see what good came from it, and now, especially when you expand and you create a better infrastructure, because every time you grow more smart because you grow from experience. So then, every single time that you go through these kind of growing pains, it's like it's like a difficult period, but then it becomes then a lot easier as well to do what you've done in the past. The challenges come from the newer things you're going to be doing now, but actually at least the stuff in the past, you've kind of nailed your workflows, the way you pack and pick and the way that everything's set up within the factory to optimize time and space and all these things. It's a lot of fun when you get that done. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. I've learned to just bin everything now. Like, yeah, yeah. Anything I haven't needed for 6 months to 12 months, I just get rid of now. Yeah. Better. Otherwise, it just stays there for years. Well, I do it at home as well. It's like, I'm brutal now. Brutal. I moved home too many times as well, and every time I have less and less things. So now it's like a case of suitcases, and let's say that's all my stuff. Well, thanks, Chris. I think that was a very inspiring story. I think, to have done what you've done in just the 2.5 years, from humble beginnings to building a brand that's redefining what an authentic pretzel should taste like is incredible to hear, and how the craftsmanship, persistence, and genuine care for your ingredients can still cut through such a crowded market. So a huge thank you to you, Chris, and your team, Austin Pretzel Company, for sharing your journey. But before we go, where can we find you? Like, do you want to plug yourself in? Like, what's your website? What channels are you on? Where can we find you? Well, I hope I see you in the UK as well soon. That'd be nice. Although I'm feeling a bit like it could be a dangerous move to have your snacks in the UK near me. I've got a sweet tooth as well. Well, thank you for your time, Chris, and thank you all for tuning in to the London Food Network podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, share, and leave a quick review. It helps us bring you more like this. I'm Sebastian Candlon, your host. Many, many thanks. See you, Chris.